to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the 39 Steps. We saw this production at the Sheffield Lyceum on the 2nd of May 2024. Alfred Hitchcock's classic spy thriller, The 39 Steps, is brilliantly and hilariously recreated for the stage. This smash hit Olivier and Tony Award-winning comedy is back out on a UK tour, following nearly 10 years in London's West End and taking Broadway by storm. After playing 39 different countries across the globe, the show has delighted over 3 million people worldwide with its quintessentially plucky spirit and dashing sense of fun. So Stephen, what's it all about?
Follow the incredible adventures of our handsome hero, Richard Hannay, complete with stiff upper lip, British gung-ho and pencil moustache, as he encounters dastardly murders, double-crossing secret agents, and, of course, devastatingly beautiful women. This wonderfully inventive and gripping comedy thriller features 4 fearless actors playing 139 roles in 100 minutes of fast-paced fun and thrilling action.
But first, our post-show opinion!
All the steps you need to create great theatre.
These are 39 steps not to be missed.
So with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
Richard, would you like to
Yes?
set the scene for the 39 steps?
Yes, Hyacinth.
Ooh. Richard. Do get a move on, Richard. Do entertain us at our candlelight supper.
Okay, so we walked into the auditorium.
We took to our seats. Yes, we know all that.
And we actually was presented with a...
Okay, start again.
No, I'll just...
Without saying actually.
I know. Why do I keep saying actually tonight?
And why? I don't know, but you're...
Actually this and actually that.
And actually, a lot of your conversations start with, right, so...
I can't change who I am.
You can. Well, some people can.
But should they change?
Yes. Start like this. Once upon a time...
It was a dark and stormy night. So, the stage was...
No, don't start with so.
All right. I felt like when we walked into this production, we were shown and presented with almost a stage within a stage.
Oh, that's a very good start.
You see,
You can do it if you think about
I'll
it.
get there in the end.
Yeah, 10 minutes, but never mind.
It's also very reminiscent of old musicals that you've seen that have been filmed where you're almost seeing the back of a stage as well. So you're seeing the exit door, you're seeing the gates, the shutters of the where the lorry would reverse into to drop off the scenery for the stage at the back of it, which is all very brick walls. It's very bare stage production with the addition of boxes built in the front of the proscenium arch, just to give you the effect that you've gone back in time to a smaller old stage, really. And it's very Red Velvet Curtain-esque. It actually fits really well in the Sheffield Lyceum. It's actually enhanced almost by everything around it, and that wouldn't have been meant to do so. That actually is because the stage it sort of marries well with the age of the theatre itself.
You did really well there.
That was good, wasn't it?
It was. You got there.
For once.
There's a couple of actuallys in there, but actually,
Yeah, well.
I'll let that fly.
And you can see that there's actual there's an
Don't do
exit
it.
off stage. There's obviously wing exits, but also a proper exit at the back with the red exit light, which it's almost as well what you'd see at Noises Off when the stage turns round. It's very much that feeling, really.
You won't last a minute in just a minute. There'll be buzzers going off all the time. However, let's move on.
Yeah.
So this blank space, which we've all described as a set within a set, but it's a clear stage.
It's actually
Just
quite clever as well, because it's not just... It imitates the backstage, but you know it's not the backstage of what the theatre is itself as well. So it's actually, you know that it's specific in why it's all placed there as well. And there's a ladder at the back. I didn't actually say that bit.
No.
Anyway.
And so that is the first scene. The second scene then goes back to Richard Haney's house. I think it's Richard Haney.
Yeah.
And to change the set into his lounge was just simple chairs and a desk just moved straight into position.
And a window brought on a dolly.
And yeah, there was quite a lot of that. Shall we just talk about the set pieces here then?
Yeah, can do.
Everything that was brought on. Because this was quite a quick... there were only 4 people in the cast, so everyone was moving things, whether that was a door, or a door frame, a window, a picture frame, or anything that they brought on. Everything was on wheels, everything moved around.
Yeah, and it almost felt like it was bits of prop lying around at the back of a stage that had been left there. So there was a few times when they used ladders, or they'd used a few bits of things that might have just been propped up at the back of the wings that were waiting to be used. Not necessarily specific set pieces for certain scenes. Some of it was just pieces that were used throughout building a stage almost.
No, but they created the adventure within the bare stage.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
say. That's the only way I could describe it. For example, when you said about the ladders, they had 2 ladders and a plank of wood going across it, and that's when the guy had to kind of use that as a way of walking, crawling over the bridge that there was describing, and then he fell.
It was the Forth
from
Bridge,
the middle.
wasn't it? It was up in Scotland.
Yeah, but they utilised that as a bridge. Likewise, they did the suitcases with the trains.
Yeah,
the train seats and things like that.
Yeah, there were the big travel cases, the ones on wheels and stuff.
That's what it was. Yeah. So there was a lot of things that they just brought on and off and moved around. So it was one of those kind of productions.
Yeah, it gave you all the things you needed for the production to actually take you to transport you to different places.
Yeah. I suppose there'll be trunks and travel trunks.
There'll be the costume trunks and stuff like that, kicking around stage and things like that. And also...
And a wardrobe at one point that turned into a bed.
Yeah, and it was a little bit like the... for example, in the Scottish farm, there was windows made out of just a wooden frame.
Yeah,
you know, there was, but it all gave the element, and there was the same. They had a door that was on a dolly that was wheeled around stage a lot, and that became a door for so many different scenes.
Yes,
it became the same door,
and it doubled up for like the farmyard, the farmhouse, and also the rich guy's
the rich house.
Yeah,
and it also cleverly was used as a travel scene between different rooms in the grand house by moving it round the stage to different positions, just to imitate that the room space had changed.
And that was hilarious.
It was brilliant.
When we saw Ocean at the End of the World, that was very similar.
Yeah, it was.
But how they did this was just absolutely funny. I think because the dialogue there within the text was very much, oh, now this is such and such, let's go through to the next room.
Yeah.
You go through into the next room, this is such and such, let's go through to the next room. And just by moving the door around, just to basically walk through it and just wait.
Yeah. And there wasn't really...
Just have a little bit of exchange.
Yeah, and as well, there wasn't really any lighting changes either. It was just completely bare stage, you know.
Yeah.
Until they had the party scene when you opened the door and there was silhouettes of people
dancing.
In the back dancing.
But they were like,
that was enough to just show.
Cut out paper people silhouetted, weren't they?
Yeah.
With a bit of music. And the thing is, a lot of these things were done with good humour.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I think it just moved the story along just with a sense of fun. And it wasn't taking itself too seriously either in a lot of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it was very... Well, I think we're moving on to the direction, aren't we, really?
We are a bit, yeah.
So, shall we venture there first then?
Yeah, we can do.
because of how this is structured and directed, and to give it a comic appeal, you know, it's got to be quite fun, and it's got to be fast. Well, not all the time fast, but the changes and how they use the props and the set and make things. I'm going to say it's got to be stupid. But stupid to be quite clever, inventive, and funny. Pride and Prejudice sort of was very much similar in its tone, because they had to do quite a few characters as well. When they did that bit in the train where one of them was a newspaper seller, one of them was the train guard as well, and a couple of them were trying to be the inspector. The main characters were putting different kind of hats on all over the place.
Yeah, and it's almost like if you can imagine a fast game of dress up where somebody would shout another character and you've got to change into that character straight away. It's like,
or then turn in
with a different accent or a different mannerism, and then somebody shouts another one and you've got to quickly change into something else. And it's very much a production that is centered around Richard Haney's character, and these three other people become
everything
so many other things.
Yeah, and they've got to be on their toes.
They've really
quickly change.
It's almost like the minute they've walked off or walked on, they've got to come back as something else. A little bit like you say, like Pride and Prejudice, sort of. By the time somebody's walked off and round a set piece and they're back on, they're somebody else.
Yes,
and it's got to be that pace and that speed to make it feel fun as well. To make it feel like almost effortless dress up. You know, and it's got to have that. And
element. I think the direction of this was just absolutely spot on, and it's all down to the details. And in one of the scenes where one of the characters plays the, I think she was a German lady, and she'd been stabbed in the back, and how she died was just hilarious. It was stupid, stupid, but it was hilarious. She managed to just crawl onto the seat where Richard was sat. So she was in front of him, but how she did that was so like dramatic and so like over the top. And then when she did actually finally die, she was clutching the map of the whole espionage plot was basically in her hand there.
Yeah.
And when he did manage to get under her and out of the seat, to get her to drop the paperwork, he used the knife as like a lever to drop a hand, to drop it. And it was those kind of those little simplistic things.
And and to add to that, I feel that it was like you were watching a death scene in a silent movie where all we were missing were moments of bringing up a card with a different few words on it, or woe is me, or oh no, I've been stabbed, or it was just had all them reminiscent views of you're taking a long time to die here, love, but you're over egging it, but it works so well, you know.
It's like bordering on slapstick.
Yeah.
But it had that kind of dark sense of humour of it just being completely insane.
Yeah, and this is definitely a production of clowning, and because when you step back and realise actually this is almost Mr. Bean-esque, or you know, those mime artist-esque productions where it's not just about the words they say, it's about, like we said, mannerisms, changes, things that are happening, and to direct it and to fine-tune who does what when. When we talk about organised chaos, this is a fine example of organised chaos.
Well, it's more of a farce in that respect, but without all the doors.
Yeah, it's a farce without. Yeah, it's a farce.
It's got doors, but
it's the commitment to it, to almost make it so calm and so quick that it just feels right. So when those characters walk in as another person, you still don't associate them with the previous person, and that's so key to this.
I think there's an element of being so stupid, so funny, that the audience is on board with whatever you do. All that character had to do is just give a bit of a wink to the audience, and they're still with them, and it's still believable that what they're doing is truth.
And and I think as well, some of the characterizations was such contrast from the previous person they played. So 1 minute you'd got the farmer changing into the Scottish woman who ran a bed and breakfast. That you went from a really harsh, almost wife-beating farmer to a lady which was basically him in drag, playing a Scottish, almost super grand character. From it went from it had everything about it where you were going. It was such a shape-shifting performance from each of them, really, and I think that was the fun and humour in it.
So we went from like Billy Connolly to Gudrun Uri in a matter of seconds.
Really did. Yeah, and not just that, like you said, like the other scene with the train scene where you're going from newspaper seller. To ticket conductor to police, and then back and then up and down and right just with the change of a hat or a walk off stage, walk back on, and it was so quick that it became
chaotic,
believable as well.
Yeah,
you just didn't,
because you were on board, and this is what I meant by giving them the audience a wink, because you were on board to believe that they needed to be that other character to make the storyline work for that other character, and then they were going to change a different hat to be the person they were previously to come back in for that other person to then go around. So every time, for example, they looked out of the train window, every single one of them did that whole bending under the glass that wasn't really there.
Yeah, exactly.
Look about.
Yeah.
And so you could believe that that's
you painted the perimeter of that train where they were. It became so much more.
Yeah, just by that gesture alone.
Yeah.
And I love theatre like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's so to the point.
I think because the plot is quite simple, you've got to go along with the humour to parody it.
Yeah, you've got to commit to this.
Yeah. Have you actually seen the film?
No.
I have many years ago. Because I just like Hitchcock films.
Yeah. I've seen quite a few, but they've just not seen 39 Steps, I don't think.
Yeah. But with a lot of those films, the plot is very simple.
Yeah.
But it's more about the atmosphere that they build up in all of it. You think like the film noirs of the eras as well,
exactly.
the whole black and white thing, and they play with shadows and stuff. This is clearly gone down the whole comedic route that is very much reminiscent of just taking the piss out of those kind of genres in itself.
Yeah, but still feeling faithful in some way to that era.
To the plot.
It still feels and to the plot, but it's like if Hitchcock only had four people to play 130, this is what would happen. This is it's almost like, in a way, it's almost like, I've repeated myself. In a way, this is a production that is what's being sold to a filmmaker. We've got to show you the plot. We've got to show you the whole production. We've got to show you the film by. We'll all play the characters and we're going to talk it through. It's like this is how, if it needed to be sold as a, before the film was made, this is how we're going to show you what happens. And it's like they've all the people that are writing it have got involved in a way. I think sometimes when something's been confidently directed.
So Maria Atkin directed this.
It'd be actually really interesting to see the script and to see what stage directions have been given on this script.
Yes, possibly.
From the original writing and adaptation.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
Because, yes, some of this couldn't be written down, but it must have been meticulously thought about who became what character.
Well, there was a production at St Joseph's. There was a production of this at St Joseph's Theatre in Scarborough last year that we missed out on going to see because we were going to do it, and that was done in the round. Yeah. And looking at the pictures, it didn't look anything like what this was presented at.
No,
because obviously it was in the round.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there must be some kind of directorial choice as to how they do it.
Yeah.
As well. But I think the direction in this was just so strong by Maria.
Yeah,
Etkin,
totally. And
to be so inventive as well. Now, as you say, we don't know what was in the script.
No.
However, how it came across on the stage, how the actors managed to do that, and on what they brought to the table as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything just worked and gelled really, really well for this production.
And also, it's about creating this piece of theatre that, yes, it's farcical in its adaptation of the film. Yes, it could feel rushed and it could feel messed about with, or the cast could see humour in the places where you don't see humour. This is about creating. It's not easy theatre to do something like this. Your cast have got to be on it. Your cast have really got to know what they're doing and when they're doing it and why. And you can tell that the directors conveyed that very well. And I think that says a lot when you see this piece. And it does have to be rehearsed a lot, And I think, we've seen a recent production of Noises Off that had nowhere near the production quality as this.
No.
It had nowhere near the level of attention to create this. The
pacing was off.
It was
on
off.
Noises Off.
Yeah,
it was just off.
It was off. Yeah, they were
literally off.
We haven't seen, in previous production, we haven't seen enough time spent on the performance of the production. Whereas this, clearly, the cast knew what they were doing and when they were doing it. Yeah. And the subsequent extra people that, the crew behind the scenes that did the odd few bits that actually enhanced the performance, they all knew what they were doing and when they were doing it. Just to the simple things as
the extra hand in the
finale. Extra hand, but also not just the extra hand, the shoving on of a chair at speed. That wouldn't seem like much, but
it was dumped on, but with an attitude,
and it was
specific, adds to the humour.
Yeah,
especially when it's like someone's going to sit down, they've already turned their back towards it, and they're going to go, and then all of a sudden a chair's been thrust to them.
And it almost touches the back of their knees, ready to sit down. So they know
that they can sit, yeah.
And it's like, that takes timing and takes direction.
But also, it's one of those gags, and there was another one where it was like, oh, we'll just go and sit here, and there wasn't anything there. And then all of a sudden, there was one pushed in.
Yeah.
And it was there again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's physical humour.
Yeah, totally. And that's where, when I say clowning, it's about
it's more inventive stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the inventive stuff, but it's also the stuff done in silence. Words aren't always needed for those gags.
Exactly,
or those
and a lot
moments.
of these gags doesn't necessarily have to be written down.
No.
It's just, what could we do in this bit here? What can we make it funny?
Yeah.
What I know, it was just one of the spare things when you're in rehearsals, like that would be a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of this could have even been done in rehearsals.
Yeah.
Just how someone's just chucked a chair in.
And it could be by accident.
We like that.
It could be by accident.
Well, exactly,
as well.
yeah.
So even the maybe all this is written down, but you can actually see that even in the process of designing this production, they may have had those moments where things would have been done initially by accident that became actual things that happened.
I think it all boils down to stagecraft.
It really does.
Obviously, what people have done when they've gone on directors' courses, because when we saw Brief Encounter at St James's Theatre in, what was it, 2021? 22?
22.
I think it was 22. Something like that. Whenever someone opened a door and there was a gust of wind, they all reacted.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't they, in the same way? Now, the same kind of thing happened here. So whenever someone opened a door or there was trying to run over the trains and trying to catch each other, and there was like a gust of wind or whatever,
or there was a tunnel or
tunnels or whatever it was, they all did it in slow-mo, like they were moving backwards and just flapped their coats, dresses, whatever they had on them, just to indicate that it was windy.
Well, it's a little bit like when he fell off the bridge, and he's literally stood on stage, Richard Hannay is, waving his arms in the air like he's falling off a bridge, and he's stood on the stage.
Yeah.
But the lighting state changed, and it's enough to you know exactly what's happening. You know
Well,
exactly the specifics of that.
It's telling the story
scene.
with physical action, isn't
Yeah.
it? And they did a bit of puppetry as well in this one, where they brought down the cloth and they had projections, not the projections, but they lit up from behind.
Yeah, it was reminiscent to old puppet theatre, or that old
But a lot of these things turn into puppets because Pride and Prejudice went puppet-esque, didn't they?
Yeah.
As well, on the stairs.
Yeah, it's the typical
And,
scene it's the typical
Advance the plot forward.
yeah, it's like you'd have a montage. It's the similar thing as having a montage with
It's normally with a chase scene or something like that, isn't it?
normally a scene that they couldn't really create on stage because it would actually be too physical, or somebody could get hurt if they're going to do this scene. So it actually helps. I mean, they couldn't have big Spitfires on the show.
Although they did have the planes, obviously, for this.
Yeah.
However, what I would say is it's got to be in the right setting. So in Bonnie and Clyde, for example, you won't get away with doing stuff like that because it's the wrong kind of show.
Exactly that, yeah.
Because it's not like a piss take.
No.
It's got to be for the right kind of
Whereas this,
show.
obviously, they got to a point when they adapted these from the film where they thought, how can we do this one scene that is just too big?
Yeah.
So let's do it with shadow puppets. Let's just create it. And
that was great.
Yeah,
and that was another one that just took another turn.
It adds a contrast to the whole production, doesn't it?
Another dimension to what we've seen so far, like an extra added little thing. I think the one thing that lets it down for me was in the second act where it was the bedroom scene, and it just seemed to have lost its pace just a fraction. When they were having the sandwiches and one of them managed to get free from the cuffs, but then
that seemed to just take too long in a way.
Yes, it just dragged ever so slightly. But I think it was one of them where there wasn't anything additional going on. There was nothing humorous happening. It was more... well, I don't even know if it was character-based either. It just plodded ever so slightly, but it was just enough just to lose momentum.
Yeah, I think I love
watching it.
I love that scene in the sense of I love the wardrobe that
and
was
the lights.
The wardrobe that was basically a wall in the reception area with the two Scottish. That was high energy in the sense of you've got the two Scottish, the husband and wife that ran the bed and breakfast. And they walked round with the wardrobe that then became the bed with lights already built into it. And you got the fireplace and little things like the fireplace.
The sandwiches that were cut like great big bricks.
Yeah, and the fireplace where they put the fire on and it didn't come on straight away. And, that was really good. But then, like you say, I think it just dipped a little when there was just a bit too much delay in the dialogue and the movements in that scene.
I think it started from trying to take the stockings off. When she was trying to take the stockings off. Yeah, I think it was more like nothing much was going on or advancing the plot. We were just sat watching not a lot.
I think it's when attention dips a little and it's like you want to keep attention all the time, really.
Yeah.
Where possible.
Yeah. But other than that, it went along quite fast.
Totally.
I mean, it was quite a short play. 45 minutes for the first act, 49 minutes for the second act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see why. I mean, you wouldn't want any more.
The thing is, I think it's because of the plot. There's not much in it, really.
No, exactly.
I
did like the little nods in it to the other Hitchcock films.
I was just about to bring that up, actually. So The Man Who Knew Too Much, that was referenced. The Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho's reference.
With the washing, the shower scene.
Yeah.
And Vertigo. Did you see any more? Did you notice any more?
No, I think they're the main three that I noticed.
Yeah.
There's probably more, but once you watch it again, you probably pick up on more. But I did notice the little nods too.
It was only when they said Vertigo that I thought, okay, here we go. And then I saw the Psycho, and then it was like The Man Who Knew Too Much, and then I was thinking, okay, so did they miss out the birds, or did I not see that?
Yeah.
Or like all the other ones.
I mean, the other directed piece that I was going to pick up on as well before I forget is the scene with traipsing through the woods and the bog and the ponds and the pools where it was basically one of the clowns dressed in complete black plastic, and then when somebody got their foot stuck in something, it was just they just grabbed onto them to stop their leg going. They got stuck, or
it started out as being like a style.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Like
it was a style.
One of those tiles,
and then it was a tree, and then it was then it was a bit of water that they got stuck in, or
And then he told him off, and then he walked off, and then pushed an actual wooden thing that they got, like sty in, to climb over or climb through. Really, so it was good physical theatre, but also using. I wonder if that person doing all those things were classed as characters.
Yeah, true.
Maybe is that what makes all the characters be like 139 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
I was a character. What did you play? I played a bog.
I played tree number 3.
Yeah, it'll be all that, won't it?
Yeah.
In terms of the writing, I don't know what to say about the writing, to be fair. Simply because it is just a complete farce parody of those those film noirs, the spy thrillers, espionage.
I think as well, like you say, it's quite simplistic in its storyline.
It doesn't need to be anything other than that.
It's predictable, but it's not.
It's more about the journey of how you get there, isn't it? And how you're entertained.
It's about the how we're going to tell you this story is more important than the story.
Because, funnily enough, I wasn't particularly bothered that he was running away because they assumed that he had committed the murder.
Yeah.
I wasn't really bothered by that.
No, I
wasn't even bothered about what 39 Steps meant. I was more going along with the humour and the comedy farce and the whole direction.
I think it's because you're almost rooting for them to get through the production. You're like, they can do this.
Yeah.
It's more about, the simplicity of it is irrelevant in a way. It's more about the challenge that you're watching.
Yeah, and also you forget what the point is.
Yeah, you do.
Because you get enthralled by the funnies of it. Like, Pride and Prejudice was the same. I completely forgot they were mates to start with.
Yeah,
I was just following the storyline, and then once it come to the conclusion, and then they went back to being maids again in that one. I thought, oh yeah, they were maids, weren't they?
So I'm going to ask you a question now.
Oh, go on then.
Obviously, with this having quite a simplistic storyline and predictable, where it's going to end. What would you have thought about the Mousetrap?
Yeah.
If it was done in this style rather than because it's similar era, similar style,
farcical. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of farcical, but
no, I mean if it was done farcical,
if it's done farcical, yeah.
I think you'd be looking at. Have you seen the film Clue?
Yeah.
Or the murder mystery one with Maggie Smith and it would be something similar to that.
Yeah.
With Tim Curry running around. Well, I won't be doing it now, but it would be that kind of. It would be like Cluedo.
I think the reason I ask is
the Mousetrap thing.
The reason I ask is because we talked about the Mousetrap being quite
predictable.
But then if you care less about the storyline because it's predictable, and more about how they get it done, it maybe have more weight because of the
I know what you're saying.
Do you know where I'm coming from?
I think it could be done. However, it's down to the character. Well, because it was written in a lot of detail in terms of the characters.
Yeah,
it did have a bit of humour in there.
Yeah.
Like when they said about in the Mousetrap where it was over the radio of beware someone wearing a Mac with a hat and a scarf, and each time someone came in they were wearing a Mac hat and a scarf.
Yeah.
So it's already got those kind of elements of humour in there. However, it's about the journey, it's about the action.
Yeah.
There's not much action and journey.
No, true. It all happens off stage rather than on stage.
Yeah, and it is all like trying to discover things and talk about, getting to the bottom of things. So I don't know if it would work as well.
No.
But then it's never had the chance to be anything other than the Mousetrap, has it, at the end of the day?
So you've heard it here first. If you have a go, you've heard it from us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, it's just a thought, as in it's
Yeah.
a similar period and a similar style of, storyline almost.
But I think even for the Mousetrap, there's a lot of weight behind it.
Yeah.
Even for the plot, there's a lot of weight. Whereas this, because it was more like it's a whodunit, but it's a thriller, it's a chase, it's like Pride and Prejudice, sort of.
Yeah.
That's like an emotional character journey.
Yeah, and it's a big story.
Yeah, it's a big story, but they're going on a journey,
Yeah.
and it's not like they're discovering things.
No.
A whodunit is more you're asking the question. Your character's not going on a journey.
No, it's true. Yeah,
not
yeah.
you know. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this, he's not asking the question. He's going on the journey to find something else. So it's about the action.
Yeah.
And I think that works with the discovery, the action and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas if like the Mousetrap is a question.
Yeah.
The story is the question. Who did this?
Yeah.
When? Why?
Yeah.
And whatever, all your W's. That's that kind of a story. Whereas this is the adventure. They're going on a quest.
Yeah.
The quest is to find out who did this and why, because he's got something to lose and gain in the 39 steps, because he's got to find out what the mission was and what the 39 steps is, but also he's at risk of being found and caught for something that he didn't commit.
Yeah.
So that's where that's why it's easy to do for these kind of things. But the whodunit, but it works with the Cluedo.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's because it's quite simple. It's
but then I suppose
the 6
Cluedo
characters
hasn't. And Cluedo hasn't really got a story.
It's not a story. It's just basically one
created.
question. Who
Yeah,
done it,
exactly.
and it's all in one setting.
Yeah.
So when we saw Cluedo, and when they were going in and out of the doors, they did the farcical things there with the tables and the going in. So they could actually do it in that setting.
Yeah.
But for the Mousetrap, I think it's just got far too much weight behind it, with it being in Agatha Christie and actually having a story. With 3D characters rather than 2D characters, like Cluedo.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible.
No.
Because obviously Cluedo shows that a whodunit can be done.
Yeah.
Like that. But to answer your question with the Mousetrap, I'd like to see someone do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it couldn't be done, but
and then let us come and watch it.
Yeah, it'd be a bit difficult, I think.
One of the other bits I did like.
Well, it'd be challenging, I should say.
Yeah, it would. I mean, one of the other bits I did like was the scene when just something as simple as looking through a blind to see if somebody's watching you.
Oh my God, that started at the beginning. I love that.
It's one of my favourite bits, which is so simple but just hilarious.
And the two police
the two
guys
police
in
with
the mats
detectives with the
brought out the old lamp,
brought the lamp out and
stuck it up right
when
and
when they flicked the blind to see if there was somebody stood by the lamp outside, and then it just became a bit of fun where it's like playing with the blind and they kept
see if they're still there and they had to keep coming in,
running back and forwards and it was so simple but it was hilarious.
But with that being one of the first scenes, I think it just set up to let you know what kind of situation you're getting yourself in for.
Because it was another unspoken one. It was another scene that was, it was actually a side thing to, they're standing outside watching us, and it's like, are they? And it's like...
Yeah, it's a comedy character tease, that is,
Yeah.
But it's a kind of thing that happens in pantos as well.
And it's the breaking the fourth wall to acknowledge the audience enough. Not over the top. It's the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. A little bit like the music hall scene where the curtain shut and Mr. Mind and all those like things where it brings the audience in.
Yeah.
To the space almost.
Well, again, it brings the audience into the side of the actors to know that you're in safe hands. You're going to have a laugh here. We're not taking ourselves too seriously, so just sit back and enjoy the show.
And you can see why the two are called the Clown 1 and Clown 2 or whatever, because they are the only two that actually break the space. The Richard Hannay character and the other
he only played himself. He didn't play anybody else.
He didn't, but he never broke into the audience apart from speaking to the audience as though they were at a.
But that was when he was actually in the theatre talking to Mr. Memory, and also talking to the audience, wasn't it?
It was the
somebody
voting for Labour, the voting for a candidate, and
Oh,
stuff
and,
like
and
that,
that section
and the
as
speech
well.
as
Yes,
well.
yes,
But
I forgot
none of
that
it
one, yeah.
actually acknowledged the audience that this is a bit of fun, or it was the clowns that did that, like the silliness, and it was really clever, really.
Yeah,
you know?
he only did it in the time where the audience were the audience.
Yeah, we're part
in
of
the show
the,
anyway. Yeah, and then there was another lady. Oh, what was her name? Sophina Lader. She played 3 other women, but one of them was killed off with the knife in the back at the beginning. But then she carried on playing these 2 other characters, but they never engaged with the audience either. Really,
no, exactly.
It was down to Maddie Rice and Eugene McCoy, who were just fantastic double act.
Yeah,
They really were, and
superb.
yeah. Now, with that being said, should we just nip over to the actors?
Yeah, let's do
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
Here for the drama.
We just touched upon the acting, so we might as well carry on with it.
Yeah.
I thought personally, Maddie Rice was just phenomenal as one of the characters one of the actors that managed to do everything so quickly.
Yeah.
And she came as a double act with Eugene McCoy, who equally provided her other arm.
Their energy levels were always at the same level as each other
all the time.
They never dropped. They never flagged. And I think it's easy to let a production like this get hold of you and you not perform. Sometimes it can you can get fatigued performing in something like this, whereas they never let that happen.
And I enjoyed every single one of their characters.
Yeah,
from the simplest paperboy to the old couple running the guest house.
Yeah.
To the inspectors, even I really liked Maddie when she was playing the old man in her sort of like velvet smoking jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
That character,
yeah.
and all that, and saying, "Oh well, we should shoot you."
Yeah,
and I equally like Eugene's portrayal of the lady who was his wife.
Yeah,
and he was like, well, she was drinking and we'll show you to this room, to that room, to this room, and then going in like she wasn't really that bothered.
No, exactly.
Equally,
knew that he'd probably end up getting killed, and she just
wasn't. She was there for a good time.
I think
really.
as well. I think
they worked so well together.
Yeah, and they shape-shifted, and I used that earlier. But every character or accent was spot on. If it was slightly different Scottish accent, they did it. If it was everything had its place, and it was so quick and immediate that they switched between 2 characters. I mean, like you said, the scenes where they kept changing hats or walking, they were still on stage and they were changing into 3 different characters at once, and it felt different.
And also because they had to talk to each other, playing different characters, whilst also changing their hats to then play their partners talking to them as well, and vice versa, because they always seem to be in like two up all the time.
Yeah.
I would just like to have seen them in rehearsals.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? And just seeing how chaotic and how much fun they would have had.
And not just that there's a fine line between it looking psychotic and like you've got a personality disorder, or that you're actually pulling off each individual character with perfection. And I think that's what we saw. We saw that everything was specific, everything was well done, and timing and was just spot on, really. Every movement, every walk on stage, and that is something you have to learn, and then it has to look natural. And that's you can tell they've rehearsed this a lot.
Yeah, well, they would have had to, I suppose, with the tightness of the direction as well.
Yeah.
But also to get all those details in. And Tom Byrne, he was just excellent as Richard.
Yeah,
keeping it all together and keeping himself sane.
He embodied that character. Yeah,
we followed him throughout all this insanity.
Yeah,
and it was very believable. And I just thought the whole cast was just extremely great.
And I think as well, it was every important thing that he needed to get in, he got in. I always look at things like the Bible, that it was in the coat from the farmer.
Yeah,
he needed to get that he needed to show the audience that he'd got a Bible in his coat, because that's the one that was going to stop the bullet hitting him and killing him when he got shot later on in the scene.
Yeah.
And if he'd have forgot that, you'd have lost something later in the production.
Yeah.
And this is how specific and to the point this production was.
Well, that was a setup for the payoff for the dramatic end of Act 1.
But it's very easy to miss that or not articulate that, isn't it? That if you
to make it forgettable.
Yeah,
you mean?
because then it doesn't. I think that's the difference between a production that's like feels a bit flat and then something that actually feels elevated.
And it's important,
And I think that's a bit like what we saw in Noises Off a little bit, when you've got so many things in it that they need to be there or need to be said, or if it feels flat, you don't necessarily react the same way.
Yeah, because just because someone's directed it and it's written a certain way, it doesn't mean that it's going to be performed to the standards where the message is delivered.
Because not all actors understand that some of those specifics really matter.
Well, actually, they might understand, but whether they actually do it on the night,
when they
or whether they actually,
pull it off, perform it.
Yeah. Yeah, but on the night we saw it, they all did an excellent job.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't really know what else to say other than that. Props and costumes.
Yeah,
everything was of the time period it was meant to have been in.
Yeah, it really felt spot on, really, to the point. And there was I didn't see a misstep with a costume getting out of place or not put on in the right time.
Well, I suppose when I said about the taking off the stocking.
Yeah, I
wonder if she was struggling to get that off, and that's maybe why it went on a little bit too much.
Yeah, because
he then said something, and I wonder if that was an ad lib at the time.
I wonder if the direction or
because
the interpretation
she was doing
of
it with one finger and actually needed two to do it.
Yeah, and I wonder if the direction or the what was said has been interpreted as you need to take your time and make it awkward, whereas that might have been interpreted wrong.
Yeah,
maybe, or misunderstood that it takes a lot longer than that. It could have been a little bit quicker at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the really good use of props I saw. There was one moment when I think it was I'm sure it was Maddie, when she had 3 hats in her hand.
Oh my god!
And it was like there was a hat in a hat, and she was wearing one hat, then the other hat was in the right place to become the next hat, and then it was like juggling. She kept swapping hats, and
you
saw
the
it
scene where she had half a mac on as well.
Yeah, it was like half a mac on, half a dress on, and she was becoming 3 different people, and it was like watching a juggler perform a masterclass, really. And
it got a bit bamboozling, but it was excellent.
But it was just so smooth and so to the point.
I think she got a round of applause for that.
And that's prop use.
Yeah. So excellent on that score. Anything else you want to say?
No. Oh, the other, I suppose, sorry. One thing I will pick up on is none of the props were perfect. And I mean that in the best way. Everything felt aged, or it just felt right, because it's very easy to pick props that are of the era, but they're pristine. And I think that this had that aged feel, like it's a well-worn stage or a well-worn, a little bit like the lampshades. Nothing was on perfect, or it'd just be off angle, or it'd just, even the ones in the hotel, you thought it was a little cheap hotel that they were doing their best to run this like bed and breakfast, and everything was just, it worked, but it was just a little bit quirky, shall we say?
Yeah. Attention to detail down on that one.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
what the tech is this?
So, Richard, tech.
I mean, the production was very general stage lit. A lot of it was done with white light. There was a few effects, say, for the water effects. There was a lot of like blue lights that were got ripple effects to show that he'd jumped into a river. There was I I mean,
and
I think
also
for me,
the shadow puppets as well.
yeah, and the shadow puppets were done. There was a lot of use of old traditional sort of lighting effects. So like the paper cutouts for the that were flashed in front of a light just to show the party in the background, which was just done with shadows. That then also became the big shadow puppet scene. You know, I think you had all the elements of
classic
stagecraft. And the other ones were something as simple as 3 ceiling lights came down with big metal shades. That's the word. And that was above the actual train scene. And to imitate moving, all they did was they just went in a cycle of being switched on and off in a cycle. That all it did was shine light across the floor in sort of 3 zones that just kept feeling like the train was moving. And I think that's the easiest way to describe this. There's a lot of that was happening, and there was sometimes it was a lot of dim light, or we'd have a torch out, or there was a load of things like that, and then
a lot of like naturalistic stuff.
Yeah,
there was
definitely.
no projections in this.
No,
nothing,
not at all.
It was very organic, classic.
Yeah,
stagecraft really.
Yeah, and then sound effects to reinforce a lot of the scenes. So the train scenes, getting into a station. You know, the train stopping, and then you'd got, and obviously we had the scene that we've seen before in other things where there's a train that comes across the front of stage on a bit of rope to show that the train's going a long distance, and it's literally a toy train.
Yeah.
And then we got sound effects to show that when they're driving a car, and it's literally 2 boxes and they're playing basically like kids would with 2 cardboard boxes and a dinner plate. It's that sort of style of creating a car. And it's all, like you say, it's traditional stagecraft. I mean, one thing I did like as well was that the exit sign also had ended up becoming the hotel sign. So they changed the red light at the back to imitate a hotel sign, so the words changed on the back of that. So it just showed you a bit of movement to another scene, really, in the second half. But that was it, really. I think technically it was, yes, like you say, traditional stagecraft and playing with shadows and playing with less light a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's that kind of espionage, film noir type of thing. So I was expecting probably a little bit more, like shadows and darkly lit stuff, but actually it was well lit.
Yeah, it was,
and it's probably more suitable for the fact that it was a comedy as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But when they got a chance to play with the lighting, like hiding in the darkness and going through the trains and the tunnels and stuff like that, on the journey, that's when the lighting did become a little bit more mysterious.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think they had dry ice as well. Did they?
Yeah, they said it's a really foggy night, and then
that's it.
Then the smoke machine got switched on after time. Very similar to the sound effect you saw, the like lighting the fire, all a bit delayed, and like somebody forgot to press the button.
Yeah. But that can only work if you've set it up to be.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is, I suppose it's not really a technical thing, but a lot of the scenery was added and moved and put around stage, a little bit like the Edinburgh sign. When we came into the station, the sign was just shoved on.
Yeah,
and everybody.
It looked like it was misspelt as well.
Yeah, but everybody came to a halt, and I think what was good when the train screeched, everybody leant forward like the train had stopped, and it all gave you those effects. You felt like the space was bigger than it was.
Yeah, that's how things should be done.
Totally.
Remember when we saw The Wicked Lady?
Yeah,
and they did a train journey, and she didn't bloody move at all, did she?
No, she did. There was no rumble. It's not like she was sat in a washing machine at all.
No, there was nothing going on at all.
No.
And now it's time for
Rewind Rewatch.
Well, I just want to watch it again, to be fair.
I'm going to say I agree. I'd love to watch this again. But I would like to also highlight a few scenes that I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
I think the section with the train and that whole carriage and the constant change of the characters, that was a highlight.
Yeah.
The walking in and out of the doors, just to go from room to room, that was a highlight. And also running through the styles and through the stream and stuff. I thought that was quite fun as well.
I also like the Scottish bed and breakfast when they arrived.
Yeah,
with the shape shifting of the characters when it went from the police arriving at the hotel and in the middle of the night when the owners were there as well as the police that arrived, and it kept switching between the two characters.
Yeah, because they played both.
Yeah, they played all four characters all at once, and that was brilliant.
Yeah. So I'd
love to watch it again.
I'd see it again. I'd also like to see a different version, like the Stephen Joseph one, just to see.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the version in the round. Yeah, because they would have pulled it off.
It's one of them where it's just 4 characters and everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Moving on to our final segment, as we say, call this a show.
A brilliant piece of farcical theatre that gives you, if you're interested in theatre and love to see stagecraft at its finest, this is what you need to watch.
Yes, I was going to say this is like a masterclass of classical stagecraft.
Yeah, totally.
Classical stagecraft? Yes, I think that's a thing. I might put it on a T-shirt.
But interestingly, that it's been applied to a Hitchcock film that
is also a master of suspense.
Yeah, but if you didn't know the film was included in this, actually...
What do you mean it's included?
No, what I mean is if you didn't know that it was associated to this film, you could have watched it without... You don't have to watch the film to understand what's happening, almost.
Definitely one for people to go and see and have a good time and just enjoy. And if you are interested, like you said, about theatre, this is one... These are the kind of plays you need to be watching. Scores then please, Richard, for the 39 Steps. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being 39 steps in the right direction and 1 being pushed down the 39 steps. What's it going to be?
Well, it's a masterclass, so 10 out of 10 from me.
I'm gonna give it a 10 as well, because I think it just deserves it with everything, all the effort and everything that's gone into it. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
Well, standing ovation.
Yep, and it's a standing ovation from me as well.
So there we are. That's our discussion of the 39 Steps. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
and opinions
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage Downstage.
Bit of voice training now, articulation.
Diction.
Have you got your diction?
Me.
You.
Was that a vocal coach cough?
It was a clear out. We all like a good clear out. On today's episode, we'll be discussing 39 Steps. We saw this production... Oh, I've not wrote it down, have I? Say what you're seeing. If you see it, say it.
It's on the programme.
But I'm looking at the screen.
Well, you wrote it.
I'm just lazy like that. Do you know what I mean? On today's episode, we'll be discussing... I've missed some words out. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the 39 Steps. Not 38 steps.
Or 37.
No. Not even 40 steps. Did you get your steps in? Oh, no, you do lengths now, don't you? You're a swimmer. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 2nd of May 2024. Alfred Hitchcock's... I feel like I can't speak. Alfred. I'm not putting my teeth in. Alfred Hitchcock's classic spy thriller, The 39 Steps, is brilliantly and hilariously recreated for the stage. The smash hit Olivier and Tony Award-winning comedy
Olivier.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, I can't read
The
today.
smash hit Oliver and Tony.
I thought we were talking about Oliver.
Never before has a boy wanted more.
Please, sir, can I have some more? More? The smash... Have you finished fidgeting? I can't even speak. I can't even be quick-witted without fluffing my words. This is going to go downhill.
You were just struggling on the word cock, that's all I can say.
Where are you looking?
Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah. The smash hit Olivia and Tonia Award...
Olivier.
I know, but I said Olivier and then Tonia.
You said Oliver. Olivier.
No, I didn't say Oliver. I went Olivia and then Tonia.
Olivier.
The smash hit Olivier. Richard, I think you should do this first bit.
Because it's got some big words in it. You want me to do it?
The 7 letters, I should be able to do it, and Tony's only 4. I don't know if he knows that.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing The 39 Steps. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 2nd of May 2024. Alfred Hitchcock's Slashik. It's because it all thingies. Alfred Hitchcock.
You don't need to tell me about it.
I know. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 39th of the 39th.
On the 39 steps.
I sat on the 42nd step and I fell off. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 2nd of May 2024. Alfred Hitchcock's classic spy... It's hard.
I know.
After playing 39 different countries across... After playing 39 different countries across the... Why a cloth?
I don't know.
Is it because globe? Across
Yeah,
the globe.
Across
Across the globe.